Welcome to Niche Sports, and I'm really excited today because we are celebrating the birthday of a man who inspired millions and millions in this country and set an example for people all over the globe. If I start noting his line of achievements or his statistics, it's going to take all day. The kind of impact he's had, the kind of inspiration that he's provided. It's one and only Sunil Gavaskar who celebrates his birthday today on July 10th. We were blessed, we as India were blessed with a Sunil Gavaskar who went on to break numerous records. Talk about him becoming the first man to 10,000 runs in Test cricket. Talk about him becoming the first man to cross 30 hundreds in Test cricket, a 1983 World Cup winner, captain of the 1985 World Championship winning team, 774 runs in his first ever series. And yes, I said I'll not talk statistics, but I can't help it because that is the man that we are talking about. And I'm very fortunate today on Niche Sports that we are getting people who will talk about a side that not a lot know about. Mr. Gavaskar, away from the cricket field, has also been someone who has touched lives, be it with his personality, be it with a sense of humor, be it with just being the man that he is. And today, we'll be joined by a very special panel who have known him for years and years. But to start off, I've got Sachin Bajaj, my co-founder at Niche Sports, and I will let him do the honors in bringing our panel on to this show. Sachin, welcome. Special day. So please, special people with us as well.
Guys, it's a great day today. It's Mr. Gavaskar's birthday. An absolute legend of Indian cricket. I would say the greatest sporting son of India. And it's good to have three people or three cricketers who have not only served Bombay, CCI, and Tata's and Indian cricket onto our panel. I'd like to introduce first Mr. Milind Rege, who's been not only captained Bombay, he has looked after Tata's cricket. He's been the chairman of selectors, has been the CCI cricket secretary, and run CCI cricket and Tata's cricket for over 30 years. Someone who keeps serving the game even today, and someone who played a lot with Mr. Gavaskar. Mr. Rege, sir, it's so good to have you with us on a historic day to celebrate the life of one of India's greatest sporting sons.
Thank you, Sachin, for having invited me.
I'd now like to introduce Hemant Kenkre, who has not only been Mr. Gavaskar's younger brother, he's been a CCI captain, been a pillar of Tata's cricket, and has had a very good career in sports PR and a very good writer. I used to remember reading his Kenkre on Tangali with a top class batsman. I still remember his Sunridge's bat coming out of the CCI locker, and very difficult to get him out on a Sunday while he was playing for CCI in the Maidan or at the Brabant Stadium. And also my first captain when I played any friendly matches at the CCI. James, it's a pleasure to get you on.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And last but not the least, a man who wears many hats and has done a lot for cricket, former Bombay captain, CCI captain, Tata's captain, Shishir Hattangadi, Bombay selector, has run two different IPL teams in his time, and now he's taking his skills of what he's learned over the years to take Baroda cricket ahead, affectionately known as Sir Leonard, also very keen student of the game, and very few people know batting the way he does, and has been a great friend of all of us for a very long time. It's a pleasure having you.
It's really amazing that we've got so many with us who have seen him in close quarters for right, like especially Milind sir, you've seen him right from the early days. You have seen his cricketing journey, not just his cricketing journey, but as a person. So I just wanted to ask you, what were your first enduring memories of playing cricket with Sunil Gavaskar in Dadar or in the surrounding areas of Mumbai, playing in the by lanes? What were those days like?
Yeah, it's been a long journey now. We've been Sunil is 72 today. First, let me wish him a very happy birthday. God bless you, Sunil. I hope you remain the way you are and serve people, serve Indian cricket. And and it's a great day for you, really. But you will always remain behind me because I'm 6 months older than you. So that's going to be a thing which you'll have to catch up. My cricketing days with Sunil, well, what can I say about my cricketing days? They really were. We were born at the same, almost the same time, lived in flats next to each other. So when we started understanding things, maybe at 1.5, 2 years, we really were close to each other, thanks to his mother, who was a family friend and a relative of my sister-in-law. But having said that, we've shared great moments. We studied together. We lived in the same house. Almost 7 days a week, it was spent either in his house or in my house. Lunches, dinners, outings, all done together, right up to graduation, and right up to playing for Mumbai and a bit for West Zone. So my journey with Sunil has been long. My memories about him, having played in the gullies of Mumbai cricket, are uh, are quite vivid today because he was one of those who everybody knows now that he was somebody who wouldn't get out, and he hated to get out. I don't know how he imbibed those levels of concentration in him, but I think it was an inborn talent in him that Sunil had these great virtues of just batting on and on and on. And his greatest asset was his concentration levels. I wouldn't really say that Sunil was as blessed with cricket or technique as a natural. He went along the way to hone his skills and become such a legend that he has. But one thing for sure, that his concentration levels were beyond doubt the greatest that one has ever seen. And at our level, at our schoolboy level, and with all the boys who played around and with him, he was different only in that area that he just won't want to get out.
Perfect. And Sachin, would you like to add on to that question?
Yeah. Mr. Rege, a specific question for you. You grew up with him. He's he seems to have a legendary sense of humor. Did he have it in his younger days also? His leg pulling, his jokes, his banter. We believe he had. A lot of people talk about his sense of humor. Could you tell us some incidents of his younger days about his sense of humor?
Well, it's a really a private one, you see, but since it's a great day for him and we are celebrating his 72nd, I don't mind saying it. I only hope you don't pass this video on to him. That's all. Because once while we were playing in our compound, which was a rectangle really, with 4 buildings on either side, 2 buildings on either side, and he hit a ball which crashed into the windows of one of the tenants. And the tenant came running down, and both Sunil and I hid in the garage, which had 3 stumps behind it. You see, the garage door, the walls were the 3 stumps, the doors. And we hid there, and somebody told the person concerned that Sunil is hiding in the garage. And when he went in the garage, when that person went in the garage, Sunil slipped out from the other garage and came out and locked the person in the garage so that he couldn't get out. And those were the memories of his pranks that he played even then. But like every other kid, Sunil was just like any other kid. I mean, he was not a prankster to say that, but he had great skills of acting. He had great skills of imitating people. He was a good-looking guy, a young man himself as a kid. So all these skills were there in him. As he grew along, of course, he imbibed these skills of, pulling people's leg and things like that. But yes, Gavaskar was like any other normal child.
We'd like to tell our viewers as well, you can join in the discussion by posting your comments. We will be reading out those comments since we are live on Facebook and YouTube. You can post your comments and we can take those questions to the panelists as well. Let me come to Shishir here. Shishir sir, growing up in Bombay, especially, aspiring to be an opening batsman. What what did he mean to you, and what's the kind of inspiration and example he set as you were working your way up to play Ranji Trophy for Bombay?
I think
Uh,
Shishir will have to unmute.
yeah,
Unmute.
yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself. No, you're still on mute. But there's an icon at the top of your screen. Yeah, now
There
we
you
can
are.
hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, can you?
Yeah, okay. So the question obviously was growing up, what sort of impact did the birthday boy make on my generation? I think we grew up in an era where television was a bit truncated. We didn't get so much television to be able to follow or emulate or try and mimic our heroes. To be honest, and that is something that cricket didn't give us that privilege with, and so you try to get a glimpse of the man through reports in the news, well, in the print media, those dispatches coming from various journalists in those days who covered the first class games or the big games and Irani trophies and stuff like that. And one thing that caught your eye and of course your imagination was the quantum of runs against Gavaskar's name, at whether it was university cricket or whether it was Ranji Trophy later on, and especially.
I think we just lost. Yeah, we just lost him. But yes, now I'll come to you, Hemant. So you've obviously had a very personal relation with him, being his cousin. But at what age did you realize that? Hang on, here's someone special and who could possibly go on to create history.
Well, I think being in the same school as Sunil and of course Milind, I think it was not just Sunil but also Milind to me was a big hero because I used to live very close by in a place called Project Hill, and they used to live in a building compound called society called Bhagirathi by Buildings, and which was just before what is known as Chikalwadi. It's not really Chikalwadi; it's just before that. And I remember Milind and Sunil were our heroes, and on Project Hill I had Sudhir Naik, so I was very blessed to have three very big heroes who went on to do so much for cricket, not just on the field but off the field as well. Having said that, I think when he was in school, every day, almost every week, we used to see Sunil's and Milind's photograph there. And my parents, like my mother, who was Atya or his Pua, what do they call it, his aunt, and my father was, they were all so happily celebrating every time that these two, got runs or took wickets in Milind's case. So I think at that time, probably we knew that there was something very, very special about both of them, in that sense. And of course, later on, when Sunil and Milind, of course, played university, I think Milind took a job much earlier, if I'm mistaken not. And then Sunil continued playing university, Milind played for Bombay much earlier. So I think for me, as a child growing up in that atmosphere, being at Bhagirathi by Buildings, because my mother used to drop me off at my aunt's place, which is Sunil's mother's place, because my mother was a practicing doctor. And I was a little child, almost a toddler. So from those days, I've seen, whatever little I can remember. But I think it was around the school time that, we realized that there was something special about him and about all of them, about Sunil and Milind. For us, it was never Sunil alone. It was always Sunil and Milind for me. So I'll say that with a lot of respect to Sunil. But I think both of them were like, wow, these are heroes. So I think that really the school days, and then of course carrying on to the university, getting runs against Anjuman Islam, which was the top school in those days, a record partnership, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, then continuing the same work forward for Indian schools. I mean, to me, I'll never forget that day in 65 or 66 when the school declared a holiday because two of our schoolmates, rather seniors in school, were part of the Indian schools team, which played against the London schools at the Brabant Stadium. And I think, if I'm not mistaken,
Holiday.
It was declared a holiday for us one day. And I remember going to the Brabant Stadium and watching them play. And I think Sunil got 100 in that match. And I think Ramesh Nagdev also scored 100. So I think those memories are distant. And playing at the Brabant Stadium for anybody was very, very special. Because that was a test venue. That was where Ranji Trophy was played. That's where the Wadekars and the Hardikars and the Sardesais and the Tiger Pataudis were playing. So for us, seeing our school seniors playing on that same venue was a big thing for us, for school children. I probably must have been in the fourth or the fifth standard in those days.
Sachin?
Yeah, Shishir, a question for you. What, according to you, is Mr. Gavaskar's greatest legacy to Indian cricket?
It's a loaded question, Sachin, but for me, the loaded answer would be the greatest legacy was, of course, the art of opening batting. And we didn't see the great Vijay Merchant, my generation didn't see. He was a mystical name for us only because, there was greatness attached to the name. I mean, for my era, it was all about an expression of excellence, Vijay Merchant, and then came along this gentleman called Sunil Gavaskar in 1971, and thereon, like Milind rightly said somewhere, he sort of metamorphosized as a batsman. He changed over the years. He remodeled his game. A lot to do with his own thinking and his own analyzation of his own game and the opposition. But to answer your question is, he was for me, or he will be for my generation, the expression of opening batting. I mean, you talk about Bradman-esque as a term of excellence. You will talk about Gavaskar, and it gave me a lot of pride, when I was growing up in school and all, because I was, by default or design, I don't know, I was getting a few big runs. Everybody says, "Oh, it's like Sunil. It's like Sunil." Just that mention made you feel so big and so proud that at least somebody is speaking about you in the same breath, though there's no comparison as such, and there is no reason to be compared, because it's like comparing a banana peel to a rose. But the fact is that somebody obviously thought that your quantum of runs is Gavaskar-esque. So for me, that is for me the generation that comes, or they may recognize that or no, I don't know, but my generation will always look at that as there were two eras: the Merchant era and then the Gavaskar era, in terms of expression of excellence in opening batting and an inspiration for the generation.
Absolutely. We're getting comments as well. Suresh Menon, the actor who's an avid cricket lover as well, says he was an inspiration as they were growing up. The only little master we know, he says, happy birthday, dear Gavaskar sir. We've got another question as well. And this one, I'd like to ask Milind Rege sir, because obviously he's played cricket with him right since those young days. If not a cricketer, what do you think Mr. Gavaskar would have wanted to be? And also, I club that in with another question: is that at what time what story do you remember from your young days where you felt that you are in the midst of something special? Some cricketing anecdote from your young school playing days.
Well,
I think again we've had a connection issue. We'll try to get him back on. But yes, Shishir sir, we've got a wish from Suresh Menon for you as well. He's saying namaste. Next question. You were quite young. Hemant sir, you were quite young when India returned from the West Indies in 1971. Him having scored 774 runs. What is your enduring memory, especially as I understand you went to the airport and that is where 15,000 fans had come to watch him?
I think the enduring memory, the airport part comes later, but I think the biggest enduring memory that I have is I was at Dadar, where he had moved from Bhagirathi to Dadar, when he scored his first 100, and this was in the middle of the night. And I remember sleeping in his room because that room was empty, and the other room had his parents and his sisters staying there. And the phone rang in the middle of the night, and my uncle and aunt, as in Sunil's parents, walked up and picked up the phone, and I think it was Professor Changadkar, or maybe somebody from the newspapers who probably called to tell them that he scored his first 100. And I think it was just joyous that moment, to be there, with his parents, my uncle and aunt, and my cousins, and to just be there as a fly on the wall, to watch that. That's number one. The other memory I remember is that, of course, not being immediate family, if I may put it that way. I didn't get the pleasure of going closer to the aircraft, when they came, because they came by a jumbo jet, if I remember correctly. I think the jumbo jets were just introduced into India in 71. And it was amazing. The noise created by the crowd there, it was full of people. It was, godforsaken hours in the morning, and I was right at the back with the crowds, really, because I didn't get the privilege of going inside there. And the noise was so deafening that it actually outdid all the noises of all those aircrafts taking out to international destinations in the middle of the night, like used to happen in the old days. And then I remember very distinctly watching him holding that trophy which he got as a man of the match in one of the side games, I think Trinidad or Peru or somewhere. It was amazing, those curly hair, those it was amazing. I mean, you can't really explain what that situation was. And here I was among multitude of people saying, you know that guy, he's my cousin, he's my elder brother. Of course, nobody heard me, but that's a good thing. But it was amazing to see that, to see the Indian team coming back, not just him, but winning, beating the West Indies for the first time in Test cricket, and that too in the West Indies. Amazing stuff, amazing.
Yes, and we are glad to have Milind Rege sir back again. So the question again to you: what would he have been had he not been a cricketer? And what was your great memory from your school cricket playing days, that where you looked at and you say, right, there is someone really special here amongst us?
Oh yeah, when we were in class 7, our sports teacher, Father Fritz, who didn't know cricket whatsoever, he was Hemant's tutor as well as in sports. But he just took us in the senior team when we were 12 years old, and Sunil batted at 10 and I batted at 11 against a team called Anjuman Islam, who are obviously very huge guys for obvious reasons. You see? And Sunil remained not out on 30 at number 10. That was the time when one realized that a man who's just 4 feet 10 inches, or could be around that height, was facing up to fast bowling of these huge schoolboy cricketers.
We're still having some connection problems. But yeah, Sachin, would you like to take on the next question while we try to have Mr. Rege back?
Question for Shishir.
Yeah.
What was his presence like in the Bombay dressing room, and what did it mean for the youngsters who were coming into that dressing room to be playing in a Bombay team which he captained or played in?
Well, I think I discussed this with Milind, and in one of the many birthdays that we have always celebrated. I think the biggest quality that he sort of he attracted to everybody was he was such a great achiever in terms of his own batting skills when we got in to the side, and
I think your connections are a little weak today, but that's the time. We are back.
Yeah.
We are you back. Yeah.
Yeah, so you observed the people, anybody. I mean, I remember watching Bombay play in those days, from the east end of the CCI, sitting with Ravi Shastri, watching my dear friend Milind, Shivalkar, Sunil, all these guys, Ajit Wadekar, everybody play, and they were similar. They brought about a sense of hero worship for some reason, I don't know. And as you got to know them, that hero worship vanished, and only admiration remained. But in Gavaskar's case, of course, it was a name so big and so huge, and his achievements in 71, and of course then becoming the iconic world-class opening batsman. That we try to observe every little thing about him in the dressing room. The way he sat down after getting out or read a book. I think a lot of us read a book because we thought we needed to do it because Gavaskar did it, not realizing it's not going to add any value to our batting skills. But more importantly, you just wanted to do things he did, observe him very closely, realize.
Okay. Again, we are just having a bit.
Yeah, these are all things that mattered because you wanted to imbibe the good things and the things that really made him tick as a batsman. And uh, it's a memory that I'll hold with me till I go to my grave. That uh,
Right. Yeah.
Milind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before I go off the line, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can. Yes.
Yeah, before I once again go off the line, maybe your Wi-Fi doesn't want me to speak anymore on Gavaskar. I can tell you one thing in the Bombay team, that nobody was in awe of Gavaskar at all. We were all the same. The patch was the same. The people we were in awe of were really Vadekar, Sardesai, and Ashok Mankar. These three were our idols, really. The rest of the team, comprising of me, Sunil, Ajit Pai, Eknath Solkar, Paddy Shivalkar, we were just one of the boys, and the great.
Okay, we've lost him again. I don't know. There is a bit of an issue. But Sachin, any other question that you'd like to add now?
Yeah, I have a question for Hemant. The integrity values and the value systems of Mr. Gavaskar's family, according to a lot of us who don't know, I reckon would have played a great role in him developing great tenacity as a batsman and the value systems he brought to Indian cricket. Could you throw some light on what it was growing up with him in his family environment, and how do you reckon it helped him evolve into the legend of legends that he is here?
I think I'll give you a lovely example, and Milind Rege is part of that story which I want to go tell you now. And I remember 65, 66 when Sunil and Milind passed their SSC, 11th standard, those days. I also was 11th standard boy. And I do remember, the Indian team, schoolboys team, the Indian schools team was supposed to be touring London the next day, England, 1967. And obviously Sunil and Milind were to pass out, of school by then. And I think a lot of people had told both Dada, I call Sunil Dada, like my elder brother in Marathi. And a lot of people told Sunil and Milind that, you guys should take 1 year off. We don't appear for your SSC examinations, and stay back because your certainties to tour England in 1967. Because Milind was, I think, at that point in time on the cusp of playing Ranji Trophy, or maybe he had already played Ranji Trophy. But the parents said no. I mean, Sunil's father and mother, I remember my mother was a doctor, so they came and consulted my mother. All the sort of the wise persons of the Gavaskar household, they said, no, nothing doing. And I remember one relative, I don't know, I remember who it was. It probably could be this uncle of ours called Prabhakar Sapnis, whom Sunil used to call Leli Kaka. And I'll coming back to names, that's another story which I must tell you later. They all said no. And one of them told Sunil and Milind, I was talking about the 1966 67 time when you guys were told that you should not take the year off. And they were told that, if you're good enough to go to England, you should go with the Indian team, which is what Sunil did with that. Those are the value systems of everybody. That whole, the whole, I would say, middle class, very hardworking Maharashtrian value system, if I may put it that way. And of course, sense of humor that comes straight down from our grandfather, Sunil's and my grandfather, Keshav Sabaji Gavaskar, passed on to his father, Manohar, and passed on to Sunil, and now it's with Rohan. And I hope young man Vivan also has a little bit of it. So I think these are the value systems which are very important. And Milind, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sunil's mother, was the one who, kept telling both you guys, say, no, you should finish your SSC and, go on to continue to play. I don't doubt if any parent in modern times will ever tell his children or son to say, oh, no, don't play this or don't play that. That's what value systems are all about. And it proved to be correct because Sunil Gavaskar eventually did go to England in 1971 with the Indian team for the first time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true because it was Sunil's mother who looked after both of us as kids. And she taught us the values of the good things in life. And we were not allowed to go to England. And from all sources, we had heard that I was to be the captain and Sunil was to be the vice captain.
I'll call you later.
And because we were not allowed, Ajit Naik led the team. And the team had Mohinder, Surinder, Kirmani, and all these guys. But the fact remains that these value systems meant a lot to us. Also, when we came after playing about 50 days of university cricket, we had to appear for our prelims to get that form to appear for the university exams. And Father Emil De Cruz had said,
again, unfortunately, we are having these issues today, but all Milind sir's great stories are getting cut short, and we've got to blame the Wi-Fi, but it's just the sign of times that we are living in. This wouldn't have happened otherwise. All these conversations back in the day, and I don't know why I say back in the day. It was just maybe until 2 years ago used to happen in person. But to take this forward, when you look at someone like him and he showed the way to cricketers, and just, Shishir sir, you may be able to answer this, just in terms of, the kind of confidence he gave players, the way they carried themselves later. What did that mean like? He was like a player's player, they said. He showed the Indian cricketers that they had a standing, they had a stature. So, what was that impact on a youngster like you looking at someone leading the players' charge?
You see, actually, I'll be honest. We were so. Milind said something about him. He and Sunil were close. They grew up together. They virtually lived, in each other's houses. So, to be in awe of somebody like that for Milind would be difficult because obviously, you're growing up with somebody. But for us, there were two things. One was, of course, his being in awe of somebody who had such huge numbers attached to him growing up, and second is, of course. I've always believed, and this is very late in my life that I started believing it, that when you have a lot of money or when you have money, it gives you a sense of confidence. It gives you a sense of security. I think Sunil Gavaskar, in that sense, was one of the torchbearers of, professionalizing a game, or, not standing up for what he thought was due to a player who shed blood, sweat, and tears on the ground, and in a sense, put a value in terms of INR or dollars to that skill. And for me, that is the huge contribution outside the ambit of just playing the game that Sunil had on the future generations. Look, today's cricketers, you meet anybody who's playing in the IPL who's earning a decent living, he's got a lot of confidence. And, that confidence, there's a thin line between confidence and arrogance, but that confidence is important, or it happens when you are secure. You know that, boss, I'm not going to go back to a space that I've grown up in, the struggle that I've gone through. It's only because of the money. And of course, there is a work ethic attached to it because you know that it's all linked. Your hard work, your commitment to the game brings you all these things. The perks of being a modern day cricketer. So I think Sunil, in that sense, was pretty much very candid about putting a price on his skill or other skills or cricketing skills, and making sure that that could be monetized, which I think is a great thing for the game, because Hemant will tell you there are a lot of artists who are talented in other fields who have never put a price to their skill, and that is where I think somewhere you will find that they don't get enough money or don't get enough recognition because they don't put a price to their skill.
Since there's a break before Shishir, and unfortunately, it's very sad that Milind can't
Yeah.
speak. But Shishir, just
There is
continuing with
there
it.
is a big.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think that is where I think I come from in terms of putting a price, value to your skill, to your profession, and I think the future generation should always be grateful to a certain birthday boy, Sunil Gavaskar, that he was able to be the pioneer of that quality.
I think to me, Sunil would be. I'm sorry, I'm butting in. Uh, Sunil would be probably cricket's first entrepreneur, if I may put it that way. He's sort of whatever Shishir said. I'm just adding to that. But I think there are two things about him which a lot of people who are close to him will bear me out. That first is loyalty towards the people he is with. I think that's very, very critical. I mean, there are certain friends of his. I don't want to name people, but he's loyal. He's very, very loyal. In that whenever he has that function at the end, every year he used to have a function, which he still will, which has stopped unfortunately due to COVID, and I hope it hasn't stopped. I always find Sunil, with his Chikhalwadi area friends, Gagitya building and Chikhalwadi area friends, discussing what happened probably 40, 50 years ago. The tennis ball matches, Milind will be there. There'll be Ashok Ambe. Milind, correct me if I'm wrong. A couple of other these boys, who were his boys, his mates, in those days. So his loyalty to his friends and to the brands, like for example, Rohan had mentioned it in a function some time back. that Sunil refused to buy a particular product which he did not endorse when he was playing, which Rohan wanted. That's the kind of loyalty he has, and also matters to his friends. I think he was cricket's first entrepreneur, and I've been very, very fortunate to have met super duper stars, either related to or known thanks to my professional work. But they all had that one quality. Their loyalty is amazing. The loyalty to what they believe in, loyalty to the country, loyalty to the game, which is very, very critical. And so I think that is very important. I think another very important part is that he's set a template for the modern sportsman, like whoever it could be. It could be a cricketer who's making pots of money, so are tennis players making money, athletes today, they're all there. I think that template of dignity, of giving them the due, their actual due, what they're really worth, was set by Mr. Sunil Gavaskar. Simple as that. Sachin's on mute. Everybody's on mute. There we go.
Sachin, we still can't hear you. We still can't hear you. I think your earpods may have gotten disengaged. But we've got a question from the audience, and it is from Mahesh, and I think it will be best answered maybe by Shishir sir here. How was it to bat with Mr. Sunil Gavaskar? What was that like? Is it like, do you get watching mastery at the other end? Do you get carried away? Are you in awe, or is it just like you approach it as a student?
No, not at all. No student and teacher when you get onto the ground. And what was important is he kept you alert. You forgot the pressures of the opposition when you're batting with him. For two reasons. He kept you busy. I remember he was always focused on getting to the other side and hoping that when you were on strike, you got to the other side. So, and of course a good shot once in a while, and applause from him from the opposite end spurred you, made you feel good, and of course encouraged you for better things. But the most important part about batting with SMG was it kept you alert. And when you're alert and your mind is only on rotating strike, then somewhere I think you forget the pressures of the opposition, you forget the pressures of the names of bowlers. You just focus on the job on hand. And I mean, it was the first time when I batted in a first class game opening with him. I realized that I had a lot to learn, and I had a lot to imbibe as a batsman. I mean, Milind was our coach come manager just when we were embarking on our first class career in the under-22s. So we thought we had a fair idea of how to go about playing the game, and just the nuances of batsmanship. But when you went to the next level and when you played with him, you realized there's so much to learn. And it was not because you were not exposed to something like that. It was just a process of grasping things as you went along, and you realize that as we were grasping from him, he may have grasped from somebody, and he was trying to sort of transmit it to the next generation, which was such a good thing.
Yeah, Sachin, just try.
We can hear you.
Yes. Oh. All right, Sachin, we still can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why the issue is there, but Hemant sir, coming to you, when you've watched this whole journey, and I remember you sending me a piece which detailed about your interactions with some of his competitors from other nations and the kind of regard and respect they had. Can you narrate a story or two of that? Because it shows that his legend had spread all across the globe, and obviously it's still there.
No, this was actually in 1985 when I went on a music tour with R.D. Burman and Asha Bhosle, to the West Indies, and the show was at Trinidad. And the host of the tour was a cricket nut, as like most West Indians are, Indian West Indians. So, he Indian origin, if I may put it that way. And so I badgered him. I said, I need to go and see Queen's Park Oval because it was a non-cricketing season. So the guy took me there, and there was this long bar, which overlooked the ground. And it's the first time I was like soaking in the atmosphere of the fact that this is where India made its creative history, beating West Indies for the first time. This is where Sunil Gavaskar made his debut, my brother, etc., etc., etc. And so then he took me to that bar, and he ordered a couple of, amber liquid, kind of whatever was served there. And there was this group of West Indians, local Trinidadians sitting there. And they were all discussing about, who was a better batsman. This is exactly what used to happen in India in those days. Who's a better batsman, Gavaskar or Vishwanath? Who's a better singer, Asha or Lata? Who's a better Kishore or Rafi? That kind of thing. So the West Indians are exactly like us. They're discussing, is Rohan Kanai better or is Viv Richards better? And then, my host trying to, sort of put his collar up, said, who's with us? This man, is Sunny's brother, man. So they also, Sunny's brother, this, that, and the rest. So they actually stood up. And Joey Karu, the gentleman who played against India in '71, was one of them. And they all stood up with, their amber liquids in their hand or whatever they were drinking, maybe Puerto Rican rum, and said, cheers to the master. This was just spontaneous. And that just showed the kind of respect that they had, and it just happened to me a lot of times, whenever, and they don't have to know that, that I happen to be related to him or I know him, but the kind of respect that he has, across places where I've had the good fortune of touring, maybe England and Australia, it's amazing the kind of respect that they have. That just shows, how high he put the standard of Indian cricket up there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear
we
you.
can.
Okay, a question to all three of your panelists. Is it right to classify Indian cricket into three eras? The before Gavaskar era, the Gavaskar era, the post Gavaskar era. And my second part of the question is, uh, don't you think a Bharat Ratna is well deserved right now for his services not only to Indian cricket but to India? Mr. Rege, like you to go first.
Oh, this is a question which is impossible to answer. For example, for the things you've done, you require a Padma Bhushan also. But so, but that's not, whether he deserves a Bharat Ratna or not. We've seen people getting all these Ratnas and Bharat Awards and all these things. So let's leave that question out. But I want to say that, yes, he's been a legend. You can't say whether it's Gavaskar or Tendulkar or, you see, unfortunately in our country, we tend to compare greats. Was he greater than this one? Was he greater than that one? This on your show, I want to say once and for all, for God's sake, stop comparing or stop assessing who was the greatest. There is no such thing as the greatest. For example, I was listening to Boris Becker the other day on Wimbledon issues, and when he was asked about is Roger the greatest or Choco, and he said, how do you gauge the greatest? Number of tournaments, number of finals, number of trophies. At the end of it all, the number of years you played, and all these put together, how many times you won. So this kind of conversation, for example, Gavaskar, you can say that yes, he showed us the way how to play fast bowling. He showed India to be brave. He showed India how to have the guts to play international cricket. All that has to go only to Gavaskar and nobody else. Sachin Tendulkar took it from there to show how to bat against fearsome fast bowling. But to say that, time and again people are saying that, well, there were no helmets in those days. So what if there were no helmets? Vishwanath to me was the greatest Indian batsman that I've seen. But does it mean that he was the greatest player that we've ever had? It's a strongly debatable issue because for me, who gives me pleasure is the best. Vishwanath gave me the greatest pleasure, and I'm sure my panelists will also agree over there that for the sheer sight of Vishy batting, for the sheer technical brilliance that he had, there's nobody close to him. Shishir will bear me out that Sunil wasn't technically a good player, a strong player. He was technically sound where his concentration was concerned. And Sunil Gavaskar built his technique, learned his technique, imbibed his own technique, did all that he had to do for the game on his own. He was never coached. So if anybody says that I was Gavaskar's coach, it's only a myth. There's no truth in it because I have played with Gavaskar all my life. And coaching is done only in the early years of your career. And to say that Father Fitz was his coach or XYZ was his coach is not the right thing. It was just lucky that he went to XYZ's nets and from there somebody came out. But coming back to everything, let's not compare. For example, when I played with Gavaskar, I batted morning and evening with him when I was in school, in college, in the university for a year. But when I played for Bombay, I batted once with him for 10 years because the turn never came. I batted only once in my 50-odd appearances for Bombay. I played with Gavaskar only once. I never batted with Gavaskar, Vadekar, because our turn never came to bat. Such were the greats of those days and such were the technical brilliance of Mumbai's cricket. that everybody knew his part. So the post era or the era before or after, it has all. We can always say that Gavaskar was the man who started Indian cricket on a great note by showing the world that Indians are not scared of fast bowling. You bowl as fast as to me as you want, and I will hit you straight. And that credit has to go only to Sunil Gavaskar, where Sachin Tendulkar took it forward, and today's cricketers are taking forward. So that's where I end before I get cut again. Thank you.
No, but it's really, I'm so happy finally the connection has allowed us to listen to your full answer ultimately, and I think that was the best part. That I think you saved it for towards the end. But same, taking Sachin's question forward to the other two panelists. Who would like to go first?
I think Shishir is stuck, so I'll be very happy.
No, I'm not stuck. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm
Please
not
carry on. I'll wait.
What was the
Please.
question?
Good.
Yeah. Sachin, the question again, please.
Yeah, Shishir, my question was: is it right to say that Indian cricket was a before Gavaskar era, a Gavaskar era, and a post Gavaskar era? And I do you? I mean, at least I feel strongly that he should be given the Bharat Ratna. So that's what I was talking about. Mr. Rege answered that, but be happy to have your views on that. Yeah.
So I just say that you can talk about opening batting and say pre-Gavaskar would be Vijay Merchant, post and Gavaskar era, and then you would have the Sehwag era or whatever. That's fair comment to say that Indian cricket, as far as opening batting, would be broken up into a couple of parts. As regards your next question about Bharat Ratna, just can I just let it go outside Austin because
Please. It
I'll
wasn't
just leave
meant
it
any this thing.
because this has often evoked a lot of debate and while we are all
Yeah, I think.
no, it doesn't come in our expertise to judge somebody on what he deserves in terms of accolades from the government. We are just romantics of the game, tragics of the game, who love watching cricket, love watching old movies, old films, old footage of players. So to be saying that he deserves this and not this, I'll just let it go outside Ostap or get
Fair
beaten.
enough.
Either way, I'm out
No,
of it.
no, Baju, I'd like to come on this deserving issue. Are we saying anybody who deserves something gets what he wants? Let's look at one
No.
of our panelists here, Shishir Hattangadi. Shishir Hattangadi has played 10 years for Mumbai. He scored 10 hundreds for Mumbai. He's opened the innings for Mumbai. When he was dropped, he was left out forever. Okay. Now, doesn't Shishir Hattangadi, he hasn't played a single match for West Zone. And anybody opening for Mumbai, not opening for West Zone is something which is unheard of. And didn't Shishir Hattangadi deserve to play for India as an opening batsman? Because he was an outstanding opening batsman. I'm not saying that because he's on the panel, but because I want to say it today that this man deserved to play for India. This man deserved a great look in. But anybody and everybody who deserves doesn't get. I want never gets, Baju.
See, what my friend Milind Rege is trying to say is he's decided who should get the Bharat Ratna. We'll end this conversation here.
Hemant
Okay.
sir, your comment.
Okay, I think I'll just say one thing. Yes, obviously there is an era thing, and I completely agree that there was a pre, present, and post Gavaskar era, which is very, very true because the kind of attitude that was created by him as a batsman, not just as a batsman on, but even off the field, only he could do it. As far as Bharat Ratna is concerned, I'll be very happy if he does. Because I'll have two in the family with that khitab, if I may put it that way, and I can proudly say, "Arey, do Bharat Ratna." Okay, jokes apart, but I think at the end of the day, he's Dilka Ratna of everybody. So I've never believed in this whole governmental awards, or advertising guys getting Cannes awards and all. Does it sell your product? That gets an award, and Sunil sold the product. Let's be very honest. I mean, award is something which is again a manifestation of people's egos and trying to please people, if I may put it that way. Very, very honestly. Yeah, what Sunil has is all these people on the side, writing all these beautiful things. That is an award. That is Bharat Ratna, the award that a Sunil Gavaskar, a G.R. Vishwanath, all these greats of Indian cricket, Ajit Wadekar, Tiger Pataudi, this is the award. And to me, I think that is more important than anything else. And I think Sunil will be one of the first guys to sort of accept the fact that, what really matters is the love that you get, any artist for that matter, whether it's people whom I've dealt with or I've had the pleasure of being with, people like R.D. Varman, Lataji, Ashaji, Sunil, Sachin for that matter. I think at the end of the day, what matters is what kind of, how people react to you. And that is an award to me, So all these things like Bharat Ratna and all, liya diya, kya farak padta? It doesn't really matter to me.
Right, beautifully summed up. And gentlemen, it's been really great to have you for this occasion on our show here on Knee Sports. We got a lot of comments from the audience as well. We're very, very happy with the way you all have put your views and articulated them. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic time, we cannot meet. We used to have these conversations in person. And we have Mr. Hattangadi having a celebratory sweet. Is that?
No, this is actually for Sunil. I believe Milind would know. He likes biscuits and he likes chocolates, and we've heard stories about glucose biscuits being sent to West Indies in 71. He likes chocolates. He likes biscuits. He likes shikran, the good kela and doodh and sugar stuff. And so today I decided to spoil myself and celebrate Mr. Gavaskar's birthday with his dear friends Hemant Kenkre and Milind Rege, and of course the superstars Nishad and Sachin Bajaj with a 5-star chocolate. Happy birthday, Sunny.
Beautiful. I should have got something. We all should have. Had we known, we all would have had something around with us.
Go pay for it.
It just reminds me that I have to make a call to him, so I'll have to leave.
Yeah.
So please wish him from all of us.
I will. Thank you.
Tell him his dinner is pending. Tell him his dinner is pending, Milind.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Milind.
Bye, guys. Bye.
We had a few difficulties due to our connection, but thankfully we were able to have the discussion here live on Knee Sports. Thank you everyone for joining us. And yes, do subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon for all the updates, and ensure that you follow us across all social media platforms. We are going live on LinkedIn as well. So yes, that's it for us from here today. And you can send in your wishes to Mr. Gavaskar through social media now that he's on Instagram as well. So I'm sure if you're on Twitter, do send it to Rohan. I'm sure that he will also carry it forward to his dad, and he'll be most happy to see all the love that is still there, for him after all these years. He retired in 1987. I never watched him play, but his legend, I found out through stories that my grandfather and father narrated, and luckily later I was able to live through it through YouTube and watch all those innings. Bye for now, everyone, and we'll be back with you very soon.